Welcome to the Lovefly podcast. Paul Tizard here, fearofflying coach. And today we have a special guest with us, Camila, who has, we've had some dealings over the last few months. And I thought it'd be great if you were able to come on and tell a bit of your story about your fear of flying journey and what helped and all the rest of it and what you've been up to, really. So thank you and welcome.
Hello, I'm happy to be on the show.
Oh.
It has helped me a lot, and I'm glad to contribute to it as well.
Oh, thank you. So rewind a bit then. Tell us how you sort of came across us, and then the steps that you took. Well, a little bit about what your fear was like as well. That'd be really interesting for people.
Yeah, I guess the interesting part about how I came across Lovefly is the interesting part is that it was actually when I hit my rock bottom. So I have had this fear of flying since since my first flight. I've told you that as well. The first moment that I felt turbulence was the moment that I was like, what the hell? No one actually said the plate moves, and no one was able to explain to me either why it happened.
Were you quite young then, I'm guessing?
Yeah, I was 18 or 19, something like that. So yeah, no one was able to explain it to me, and it kind of fostered that fear that kept on growing over the years. And then fast forward some 15 years later, more or less, I'm returning from Croatia and I'm at the airport and I'm completely in a panic, which is completely, I don't want to say ridiculous, because I know that fear comes from a place of insecurity in a way and lack of knowledge and all that stuff. But I didn't have a way of justifying why I was feeling the way I was feeling and why I was behaving like that. I was completely, nothing that I was doing was in control. I was completely out of control, like almost cried a couple of times as well. This all before even getting into the plane. I had this, which I mentioned to you during our coaching sessions. I had this obsession with green tea, that I had to have a green tea with me when I went to every flight. And of course, you're not going to find a hot green tea very easily in an airport in Croatia in July. So that was even making it even worse. And I was like starting to I telling my partner, I don't think I can do this. This is too much for me.
What was it about the green tea you think that made that you had to have one of those?
I don't know. I think there was a flight that I did to Ireland some 7 or 8 years ago. That was really early, and I felt that coffee would be too much, so I ordered a green tea, and I felt that was very comforting to have a green tea with me. And then I thought, well, let's have this every single time.
So that's the secret.
This green tea saves 300 people, so I better hold on to it forever. So I just kept on doing it, and I don't know, I just kept on getting worse. And at the beginning, it was kind of effective to have it with me, because there was that comfort of the tea was hot, and then the smell was nice. So it kind of creates this sort of sense of calmness in you. But then that feeling kind of wears off, and it gives way to a much worse sensation, which is it becomes a little bit hopeless that not even the tea is helping you, and actually the tea is now sort of a prop that you need to hold on to, and you don't even want to drink it, but you have it there just in case something happens, and then turbulence comes, and you take a sip, and it's just. But anyway, my partner eventually found the green tea in Croatia, but not even that was helping. And then we were frenetically looking online, like, is there anything that can help very quickly? And my partner found the Lovefly podcast in Spotify, and we downloaded a couple of episodes. And, I took off, I cried, I started feeling, I don't know, that the walls were closing in, and, like, oh damn, now there's nothing that's going to stop this, and clenching your your body and kind of like holding it together, see if you can you can save everyone. I don't know. And then eventually, when the plane stabilizes, I decided, okay, I'm going to give this podcast thing a chance. And it was an episode that was with Captain Steve. And it was a really good episode because he goes through every single stage of flight, more or less, and things that people are more commonly afraid of.
Yeah, that's right. And
there's a point where he says something like, there's absolutely no way that a plane can fall because of turbulence. And I was like, what? That's crazy.
Did you believe it at that point?
I kind of did because he, he has this way of explaining things that it's very, he's obviously very calm. He has a very good sense of humor, and he's like laughing while saying it. And there's a lightness to the way that he says it as well, but in the same time, a seriousness, which is, it's kind of nice that, there's that respect for this type of fear, even though you fly a plane 3 times a day or something.
Yes.
Yeah, it was actually immediately helpful to hear that. And I don't know, the flight was something like 3 hours or 3 hours and a half. And by the end of it, I was just calling my partner like, oh, did you know that planes cannot fall because of turbulence? Or stuff like, I don't know, did you know that they have to maintain the plane every day? That sort of thing. Like, because I didn't know.
No.
And it was quite incredible for me to find out that actually maybe there was a lack of knowledge that I had about aviation, and that by hearing yourself and Captain Steve talking about that in a calming, lighthearted manner, it helped me understand that maybe there was a way that I could deal with all of this tension and somehow get over it. So yeah, I've listened to the podcast for a while, and then I didn't really do anything about it because that's what people tend to do, isn't it? You kind of like push it with your belly to make sure that, I don't know, because you don't want to deal with it because it's obviously it's some sort of trauma or fear, whatever. You just push it along. But eventually, Christmas was coming, and I'm originally from Portugal, so I travel every year to go see my family in Christmas, which means that I travel quite a lot actually to be able to see them. And I just felt like, I can't live like this forever. It just keeps getting worse. And
yes,
and this guy seemed nice, Paul. Paul seemed like a nice guy. I might as well give him a call and see if he can help. And that's how it happened. I flew to Lisbon. I spoke to you for the first time in my sister's house, and we decided that we were going to start at the beginning of this year, and so we did, and it's been a tremendous change in my life. Very, very, very impactful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Shucks. Well, let's be honest. You did the work. So from the moment we started, you were very conscientious and you were on it, weren't you? So
I was very keen. That's the thing. I just didn't want. I'm not generally a person who is afraid of things in my day-to-day life. And we do ridiculous things like, crossing the street without looking, or, things like that. And that's dangerous. That is a dangerous thing. But then flying is not dangerous. And I was so afraid of it in a way that I can't really explain how that started to take over my life, to the point that, every day, I told you about this as well, that every day I was going around my business, and obviously living in London, you see planes all the time. I don't know if they're coming into London or leaving London or just passing by, but you see them constantly, you hear them. And for a really long time, every single time I saw a plane, and this is like, what, 30 times a day, I don't know, I started like shaking a little bit and being like, oh my God, like what's going on inside of that plane, and well, I hope everyone's all right, and that sort of thing. And thinking, oh, the next time that I'm going to be on the plane is still in 6 months, so I'm okay. That sort of thing.
It's interesting,
and it's not helpful.
The power of fear that I remember us talking about this in the coaching sessions, that, the ability to be able to scare yourself about an aircraft, even though you're not in it. It's quite a gift.
Yeah, it's a gift I would rather not have. but yeah, it was such an impact to be able to, you know, from the first session that we did together, where I told you about all of this stuff, and you said, well, maybe you just need to engage with it, and so I did, and for a really long time, I think a month or so, instead of, you know, being controlled by the fear, the type of thoughts that I usually used to have with just looking at a plane, I started thinking about other things. I remember that one of the things that you suggested specifically, and that was incredibly helpful for me, was thinking, I wonder where they're going. And that was actually kind of exciting, because then you see the direction in which the plane is going, and you can think, okay, that's north or that's west or whatever. And it just engages a different part. I don't know if
Yes.
this is scientifically true, but it engages a different part of
Yeah.
your brain, at least conceptually, and you start thinking about it in a more lighthearted way that does not engage with your fear.
Yes, I was
And
trying to bring you
eventually
into
you
the
stop.
front of your head, basically, to, you know, if you're curious, you're here, this bit, whereas
Yeah,
the fear is probably somewhere about there.
in the back, yeah. And yeah, it's helpful to the point that it was helpful to the point that I don't notice planes anymore.
Wow.
Unless they're very loud, which sometimes happens, but I just don't notice them. And I don't feel, when I do notice them, I don't feel afraid. And so that's my day-to-day, the impact on my day-to-day, like my
That's
everyday
amazing.
life.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. So that's what we're in May when we're recording this. That's quite a turnaround, isn't it, in a few months?
Yeah, only 5 months actually. But I was very keen on that, because I remember that one of your episodes in the podcast, you say that generally the time that it takes to change a habit for a human is around 3 months if you work on it. And I was like, well, I'm a smart person. I can work on this.
I can do it even quicker.
I can do it even quicker. and yeah, I was really engaged, and I really tried very hard to engage with it constantly, even during work hours at night in my life. I started watching takeoff videos from the cockpit, with pilots explaining what they were doing and things like that, and that was very helpful as well, because you see how the takeoff is it's actually so nice, because they have such a beautiful view. Yeah, it's very beautiful actually when you see it from the front. And yeah, it's just a complete change of perspective, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, you've done amazing. I was saying at the time, so I hope I'm not breaching any confidences, but you're my ideal coachee, because we had our sessions. You did the 10 minutes each day, videos and stuff, and then you just smashed it. Really, you just did it, followed it, and I think that's it, isn't it? It's not, there's no magic really. It's just like have a strong desire, and then just doing the work, which you did. So that was amazing. So yeah, more people like you would be great. And
thank you.
Thankfully, I don't do the coaching with people I don't feel are motivated, because it's no point. You know, it's like I can't help them if somebody's hasn't got the desire. So somebody else pays for them to do it. There's just not that. I don't know. It's not about the money. It's about the desire. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You're very motivated.
I think that if I was to, if I had done this a couple of years ago, it probably wouldn't have been as effective, but because probably my mind wouldn't be in it as much. So I think for other people hearing that maybe are afraid of flying as well, you do need to work on it. And I think, as Paul was saying, it's half of the work is you, or most of the work is you, because you are going to carry this. You have carried this for a really long time, and you're going to carry this for the rest of your life, because you will never be a person that was never afraid of flying, if that makes sense. So in a way, I guess, I mean, it's only been a couple of months, but my guess is that you sort of work on it on the long term. You just can't sleep on it, because the moment you give way to a bad thought, and you feel afraid of it, then you're falling into the same pattern.
Yeah.
So you need to be prepared to put in the work. But it's so rewarding. It's so incredibly rewarding to be able to plan a trip and not feel afraid, or you're somewhere amazing, and you're not afraid of coming back.
Yes.
you get to feel excited to come back home. It's just such an amazing thing that I've never experienced before, and it's all new for me. And I'm honestly loving it, and I will not give up on it.
Oh, fantastic. So tell us what sort of trips you've done since. You
Trips.
went to Japan, didn't you?
I did, yeah. So the most important one though was when I went to Paris. So I did the coaching, which lasts more or less a month if you do the videos every single day. And then I remember reading on, I think it was a manual or something that comes with the coaching that says that it's most effective if you decide to take a flight within 3 or 4 weeks after the coaching session. And since I was taking it very seriously, I decided to book a flight to Paris, which is very close. It's like 50-minute flight. And I thought, well, this is an incredible opportunity for me to test the water, see how I feel. It's a short flight, it's fine. So I booked myself a ticket, and I booked it myself, which is something that I've never done because it's it used to be too stressful.
Yes.
And so I was very proud of that. How ridiculous it sounds, I don't know, but I did book it.
No, it doesn't sound ridiculous at all, because it's like extra commitment, isn't it? If you book it, it's like, oh no, this is my fault.
Yeah, exactly. I've done this to myself. And then on top of that, I've booked a seat at the window, which is something that I never do, ever do, for both ways at the window. And I tell you that the takeoff was the most beautiful thing because it was at night. It was a Friday evening. The skies were clear, and the plane doesn't really go high enough, or as high as it usually goes because it's super close. So you can see a lot more detail. It was such a beautiful flight, and I was just able to enjoy the flight and the views instead of actually feeling afraid of it. It was just really beautiful. And I was a bit stressed at the beginning. I remember being very stressed at the airport, and I don't know, I was just thinking, am I stressed because I'm afraid, or am I stressed because is this like a body reaction that you're just used to this reaction every single time you come to this specific place? So it's the mechanics of your body, is not really the fact that you're afraid. And as it turned out, as soon as I got into the plane, I think my outlook towards what I was doing was a bit different than usual. So it's funny that, because I was very afraid before I got into the plane, and as soon as I got in, I was fine. I was like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I know that my goal is to take off with my eyes open without music. And I did that. And I looked outside while doing that, which is actually very helpful to have your eyes outside. Looking outside is actually very helpful. I guess it helps with your ears and your balance.
Well, you're also facing reality, I think.
That's helpful as well.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, I was just completely covered in joy. I was just so happy that I was able to do it and actually not feel afraid of it. And then when I came back 2 days later, because this was just a weekend getaway, I was just happy to come back home, and I was able to read a book for the first time in my life in a plane, which was really nice actually, because you don't really have anything else to do. So you've got all the time in the world to read a book, and no one's bothering you. And it was just so nice. I don't know, it was really nice. And then a month later, I went to Japan. I went alone on my trip. I was a bit stressed because it was the first time in a really long time that I flew alone by myself.
Yeah, and quite a long flight as well, isn't it?
In a really long flight. And well, I was not prepared for how long that was, but that's another subject. For 14 hours standing still is it's something, but it doesn't matter. The problem was never the fear of being inside of the airplane, and actually the fact that I didn't feel that fear made bits of it very enjoyable. I was very excited to be flying to Japan, and I was looking forward to my trip. I was feeling very, I don't know, very emotional in a way, because I was doing it by myself, and I was very proud of that. But at the same time, I knew that I was about to go in a life-changing experience, and it was, I don't know, it was just very nice. And on the return, it was sort of the same. I was just very happy, and the flight was beautiful because we flew over the Arctic.
Wow.
And it was just absolutely gorgeous. And to be able to look out and not be afraid, it's the type of things that I would be missing out, you know? I just can't imagine being afraid for 14 hours like I used to be in the short haul flights that you do across Europe. That would have been absolutely a disaster. Yeah, I don't know how. I don't know. At this point, I think that you just don't need to live with that. You can do something about that, so you don't need to go through that.
I love that positivity.
Yeah, because you can. I think everyone can. It's just engaging with that instead of hiding behind the, oh no, but that's not for me, or I can't do it. You absolutely can. Everyone can. It's just engaging with that. Easier said than done, but it's true.
Well, I mean, it is about just a bit of application. And I've done a couple of 30-day programs in my life, and that's why I did a 30-day program. I thought I can just about keep the motivation for 30 days. In 30 days, although, you know, it's like, apparently it's 3 months to change a habit, rough, but that is an average, you know, so it's actually quite, 30 days is a significant amount of time if someone's committed and they apply themselves like you were. I was also really gutted, you know, when we did one of the sessions, I was not going to repeat what you said, but there was a session that you did with Captain Steve, and you bombarded him with loads of great questions. and which he asked, and I was thinking, oh, I wish I could have recorded it, because it was, the questions were great, you know, and it was a really nice, it was a really lovely session. I don't know if you felt the same, but I felt like he really was very respectful of, and you know, a lot of pilots can give you the answers, but not everybody has that sort of empathy or ability to sort of relate, you know. And I felt that he saw you and he heard you and he gave you some great answers. And I was thinking, I was so gutted, but I couldn't record it because it's your private session. But I was just thinking,
I wouldn't have minded.
Yeah, well, I would have been a great one, you know, because it was just, it was really. And I learned a few things from some of your questions. Like, oh, I didn't know that, you know, because there's so many backups and processes and stuff that it's only when somebody like yourself asks an intelligent question, you think, oh, yeah, I hadn't thought of that. And then you suddenly hear something there was a couple of things I thought, I didn't know that, but they're all gone now. But
no, it was honestly a really good session. I think it was, you at the end of our first session, you said something in the lines of, prepare all of your biggest questions of doom or something like that. And I remember that during that week, I was just like gathering my thoughts and asking myself questions that, you know, I was kind of, in a way, I was kind of ashamed of the questions that I was putting together. But in another way, I was like, for me to get over this, I also can't be afraid of sharing.
Worst questions, isn't it? Yeah.
That's my worst questions, exactly. And I remember that the first question was, can engines explode? And then the funny thing about it is that I consider myself to have a really good sense of humor. Yeah. And then I asked a question and, you know, we all bursted laughing at the question. And then he replies with so much empathy and, I don't know, in such a helpful way that in all the questions he replied, he explained things. He had a little model plane, which was very cute and it was very helpful as well, because then he can point at things while he was doing it. And by the way, the response to the question is, it's very unlikely. Like he said, something like 99.999% it won't explode, and even if it does, the other engine is still okay to fly you or you know, take off and come back for emergency landing. And then I asked, and what if the other engine explodes? And he said, well, that's the same thing as if you were to play the lottery 2 weeks in a row and win first prize twice, which is something that just never happened.
With the same numbers, I think, as well.
With the same numbers, yeah. Something that just makes your odds completely impossible. So he said that, and I was like, okay. And it was an incredibly helpful session, of course. But for me as well, one of the first things that I told you was that that I was convinced that part of my problem was the gap in knowledge that I had. So it wasn't really related to things like claustrophobia or fear of heights or, other underlying problems. It was more related to a gap of knowledge. And I think that because we live ever since the incident in New York, 9/11 happened, I think that we've been covered in such bad media covered in media coverage. Well, anyway, you get what I mean.
I do.
Media coverage has been so negative about aviation that even without realizing it, everything that you hear about planes is bad. Everything is negative. Is this bad thing happened? This bad thing happened? And of course, I was a child when that happened, so that's all I've ever heard about. I've never heard about positive things about aviation. So it's good to speak to someone that will give you a positive insight and actually feel very excited about it. That was for me, that was the best part, of seeing how much he likes to be a pilot and to fly planes and actually,
we're lucky to have him. Actually, we're lucky.
Yeah,
I've known him quite a few years now. We had a shortage of pilots, and so we recruited him when I was running the other Virgin course, and he's always so busy because you can't pin him down half the time. He never answers his texts, his WhatsApp. He's a pain in the ass, but when you get him, he's lovely, and he just so passionate about it and stuff, and so giving. And the other thing you said I thought was interesting. You said mine was a gap in knowledge, not so much claustrophobia or fear of heights. And I see those interrelated, because I think sometimes what happens is people will feel, they want to get out and they'll feel trapped and stuff. So they go on claustrophobic. Yeah. But then underpinning that could be some rational things that might be helpful to know, like how often the air is changed, every 2 to 3 minutes, and the fact that the environment, all the backups in place and for all the things to support us. And so I think when people understand that, I think it can also help with things like claustrophobia and fear of heights and stuff, because it's all stuff we do with our head, isn't it? I'm doing a really crude, broad brush there, but I think there's always an element of understanding technical stuff can really help.
Yeah, I think so. And it's I actually thought during the course it wasn't just the flying part. Well, that part of aviation that was surprising to me. It was actually how much care goes into every single bit of it. So what the noises mean, or the fact that the air crew, the crew goes into the toilet every, I don't know how much, like half an hour or so, to check that things are not on fire, or just to check that everything is safe, and that they know certain customers, if they're having erratic behaviors even before they board, to make sure that they keep an eye on them, or they limit the alcohol consumption, things like that you wouldn't even you wouldn't necessarily know that there was so much care and so much attention into these things, and actually there is. And I think it in the tendency is for this attention to even increase more. So you just know that in the future they won't relax the rules; they will just make them more stringent, because that's the nature of how the rules in aviation evolve, from my understanding. So that's helpful. That makes you feel very safe. Yeah, it makes you feel that it's actually really difficult for you to disturb a flight, because they are so prepared to deal with everything from small inconveniences to aggressive people. It's just it's quite surprising, and it's very reassuring as well.
That's good. Well, I think a lot of people see the customer service side and think that means something. I mean, obviously different airlines have different levels of service that they offer, but Frill's airline, you're going to pay for everything. You're going to get stuff chucked at you. Some of them are worse than that. But the safety wise, it's the same.
It's the same. Yeah.
And I think it's very easy to sort of confuse the two sort of elements, and I think that's kind of your message there. So, doing amazing. You're an ambassador. You're out there. I did, with your permission, I put your feedback on the website, because I just thought it was really nice when you sent me that text after you
Yeah.
landed, which was just fantastic, you know. But it's just lovely to read stuff like that. And but I wondered if I could push you for a kind of somebody listen to this going, oh yeah, it's all right for you. You're not as bad as me, blah, 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 blah. Maybe they need a bit of that extra nudge to do something like you did, or just to sort of go towards it a bit more. What advice would you give them based on your experience?
So first of all, the first thing I would say is it's not as bad as it's a little bit different for everyone, and the way that you manifest fear is different. If it's just different for every person. I was going through sleepless nights for months before flying, literally waking up in sweats because I was, well, in my nightmares, my planes were falling or catching fire, that sort of stuff. So, you know, you deal with it in different ways. I'm quite functional when I'm feeling fearful or when I'm living this type of thing. So it might not look like I'm suppressing a lot, but I am.
Yes.
And there was a point where I understood that fear was sort of, it was removing my freedom. It was taking my freedom away from me. And that I could not allow anymore. When it came to a point where I understood from here on out, it's just going to be worse, I just thought, you know, I really need to do something about this because this will take over my life.
Yeah.
And I think for most people who are afraid of flying is just thinking, how much are you actually able to take? You know, and do you feel you need to go through it? Do you really need to go through this fear?
Yeah.
Because yes, it is a bit scary to, you know, confront it at the beginning and take that step forward. It feels like there's nothing in front of you to hold you, but actually I assure you there is. And it will be fine. It will be a bit scary at the beginning, but then it will actually turn into something very positive. So, you know, just try really hard to get outside of your head and try not to think so much about yourself in the center of the problem or as the center of the problem, and think about yourself as the solution, because really the solution is inside of you. How cheesy that sounds, I don't know. It sounds very cheesy, but it is the truth. It is the truth. It's for you. Yeah. But it is the truth. Is one of those simple truths that it's you are the problem and you are the solution for this thing, and it's the only thing you can do is just to move forward. If you're willing to live through the pain of, you know, being afraid of flying and not going on holiday or not seeing your family, then if you're willing to go through that, that's entirely on you. Just know that it's on you. It's your responsibility. You are doing that to yourself.
Wow.
And you can take yourself out of it as well.
I love this. It's like tough love, Camila.
It is.
Tells it like
you know
it is.
how I am.
Wow. No, that's great. That's really interesting, actually.
Yeah.
So, you know, the power is with
true.
you, isn't it? That's your kind of message.
The power is within you. Yeah. You are the only person that can solve this problem. I mean, Paul helps, of course, you know, you helped a lot. And, you know, talking to Captain Steve helps a lot because it helps you unlock certain things. But I would never speak to you if I didn't take that path, that step forward. And I tell you, the day that I sent you that email asking for a small conversation, I was sweating.
Oh, really?
I was so stressed. I was like, I can't believe that this is actually going to happen. Because I felt the weight of, you know, every single time I flew, I felt the weight of all of those people's lives on me, because no one else seemed to be aware or care about the fact that flying was dangerous. And I was like, don't you see what's about to happen to you? So yes, of course, there's the marrying of the rational and irrational, and my rational side took over and decided to email you, and it was scary, but it was worth it.
Well, I'm glad you did. And
yeah, me too.
It's lovely to think of. I mean, there's lots and lots of success stories. Some we hear about, some we don't. But obviously, because we had our sessions together, I feel like I get where you've come from to where you are now, and it's just amazing. So thank you for trusting us to help you, but also the fact that you put yourself through it to do it, and you've done it, haven't you? To keep up the good work. Amazing.
Yeah, and I'll carry on doing it, because that's the thing. It's I just can't give it any space to come back.
You said you thought people in commercial aviation were a lot nicer than you expected, so you were going to go and pretend as a pilot.
Yeah, well, that's something that we'll think about for the next couple of months. But yes, I can share that as well, actually, because that was one of the most beautiful things. That is, when I started looking at watching the videos of pilots, plane spotters, and that sort of stuff, because I thought, I was mainly afraid of takeoff, and turbulence kind of disappeared when Captain Steve said very clearly it's not going to fall, and I was like, well, okay. But that's it. If you say so, I don't have another way. I don't have a way of not trusting that. But takeoff was still very scary for me, so I decided to do the cockpit videos, as I said earlier. And YouTube was my friend for that, right? I was searching for it. There's loads of channels that you can look into, and you just see the interaction between the pilots, who are usually usually no, I haven't seen anyone that wasn't. They were very polite to each other, and then you see them speaking to people from, I don't know, ground. I don't know what it means exactly, but people that are on the ground, giving them direction to go to, I don't know, that place or that place, or where they should take off from, that sort of thing. And they're all so polite to each other. And then even on the comment section, internet is a very toxic place for most communities anyway. And then you go into the comment section in YouTube, and it's all the nicest comments ever. People saying, oh, pilots are just the most amazing people, or we're so thankful for all you do, or it's just such a beautiful thing to see you flying that plane, or things like that. And I haven't spotted any negative comment, any bad emoji, nothing. And it just strikes me as one of the most positive communities that you can find online. So if you think that could be something helpful for you, maybe engage with them, because they're just genuinely really lovely people that are there because they really like planes. And after all of this experience, to be honest, I really like planes myself. I find it really, really cool that you can fly. I think that's when you go past your fear, it's actually such a wonderful thing that we're able to fly and just go quickly from one place to another, and that we as humankind were able to conquer that is just an absolutely outstanding thing. So yes, I have thought about maybe taking some pilot lessons, or I don't know, at least trying to be in a cockpit at some point. So that is something that potentially might happen in the future.
All right,
just to try it, because
we want to hear about that.
Just to try it, yeah.
We have the best window seat anyway.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. I just wanna see it, and part of me also thinks that if I go through it all the way to the end, then that's proper conquering a fear, isn't it? You completely dominated that fear.
You definitely have.
Yeah.
Well, Camilla, thank you very much. That was amazing. Some lovely little sound bites in there. So thank you. Well done. Keep up the great work. And I'm really grateful for you giving your time up today. And let us know if there's any sort of things that you notice that crop up at all. If you get any sort of like, oh, had this question pop into my head. Don't be a stranger. Just drop us a message. And
no, I won't.
Good.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Lovefly podcast. I hope you found it useful. Now, as always, if you need any extra help, please join our Lovefly Facebook group. You can also follow us on Instagram at loveflyhelp. And also, if you go to our website, which is lovefly.co.uk/shop, you can see other ways that you can get some help. Thanks for listening.